So I want to say a word of thanks to all those people of faith, leaders, various traditions, as well as civil society who stand with us today here across from the United Nations. The Summit of the Futures, which is hosted by the General Assembly of the United Nations, will bring together 193 nations according to the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and he aspires through this summit to be a once-in-a-generation opportunity to serve as a moment to mend eroded trust and demonstrate that international cooperation can effectively achieve agreed-upon goals and tackle emerging threats and opportunities. That is the aspiration of the Summit of the Futures. Well, on the 26th of February in 2024, Mr. Narendra Modi approached a historic third term, and he paid tribute to a man by the name of Savarkar, emphasizing his unwavering dedication to the nation's freedom and integrity. Mr. Savarkar was inspired by European fascists, Nazis, arguing that the Indian subcontinent was territorial home belonging to only the Hindus alone. He rejected a diaspora as political fiction. So instead of a summit of the future, Mr. Modi, you are creating a valley of despair, not only for Christians, but for the 1.4 billion people that live within the subcontinent of India. You propagate a hegemonic myth of a Hindu supremacist state, leaving no room for the 90% of the population who live as Dalits, underclass oppressed peoples, religious minorities, disenfranchised, indigenous, displaced peoples across India. You have created an ethno-state. And so tell me, in what other secular democracy, except in India, where the Supreme Court has claimed that there is one God, and that God is Lord Ram. This is now the law, according to the Supreme Court of India. Why is this? Ram has been granted all the juristic personages of a human being, all of the rights of a human being, one God, under one vision of Hinduism. Tell me that is not a Hindu nationalist state. Dr. Fernand Varens, former Special Rapporteur for Minorities at the United Nations, has said, India is becoming one of the world's main generators of instability, atrocities and violence because of massive scale, gravity of violations, abuses of targeting mainly religious minorities, such as Muslims and Christians and Sikhs and others. It is not just individual or local, Dr. Varens said. It is a reflection of a religious nationalism, close quote. Today, Fiacona denounces brutal authoritarianism, which fosters centralization and abuse of power, accompanied by racism, xenophobia, tribalism, and misogyny. And I want to end by sharing this. In 2023 alone, it marked a rise in Christian persecution across India. Weaponization and operation of the Hindu faith to attack 1,570 Christians, the murder of over 200, hate crimes perpetrated by religious nationalist leaders justified the destruction by bulldozer of 300 churches. It has orchestrated thousands of extrajudicial killings, arrests and detentions, denial of families of Christian burial. It has forced ritual conversions back to an oppressive form of Hinduism. While the United Nations evaluates the progress under the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Mr. Modi is continuing to target 3,000 advocates, indigenous people, who remain in jail as political prisoners. One of them, a leader, Jesuit father, priest Stan Swamiyami, who died without trial in an Indian prison. And so today, as we celebrate the future, we hold India accountable. We hold India accountable not only for the sustainable development goals that it must pursue, but by the fact that it is now the most dangerous country to be a Christian, alongside Iran and Pakistan and Afghanistan. And we call Mr. Modi, we call him to account for a supremacist, nationalistic agenda 300 Christian clergy and laity have signed on to a letter condemning his policies, asking for truth and reparations commission, asking that the Indian nation be held accountable by being designated a country of particular concern. And so I want to close with a scripture. God presides in the great assembly, says the prophet, renders judgment. The psalmist says, how long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the weak and the fatherless, the scripture says. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy, and deliver them from the hand of the wicked.